we don't have no um, we don't have an audience on live anyway, so it's fine over here. Okay, so we're on. We're back.
Hey, we are so excited to be here for our God Honors Marriage recap, basically. This is the episode where we get to talk about our marriages and different topics that go along with marriage.
Yes.
Tell them about God Honors Marriage, our group.
So,
Sharifa.
okay, so God Honors Marriage is a group that spawned out of, I don't know if it was simultaneous or if it was a baby of, but because since we've known each other, we've always led a marriage retreat, marriage group. And then Sweet Tea and Sunshine podcast came out of it because we had more to talk about than just marriage. And so we decided to maybe make the focus more towards marriage, but then from a wife's point of view. And so now we're at that place. But marriage has always been a talk. If you followed us from the beginning, you know we've incorporated our husbands and our kids heavily because we think that's a very important area in our lives at this moment. So, God Honors Marriage Group opened this year, and we have many, many, many members, and it's just kind of a way to celebrate marriage and also get to the real deal about marriages. And did I miss anything?
And just to connect with other couples and inspire couples inspiring each other. We never position ourselves as an expert. We just know the I don't want to say trials and tribulations because I hate when people think that marriage is all that.
The value.
Right. We've learned so much through our marriage and grown so much that we think that it's only appropriate that married couples love on each other and lift each other up in those experiences that we've encountered. So
yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
I love that you said that we're not experts. We just are over here living life. And I think that it's really important to focus on that because everyone doesn't have a PhD. And even people with all those degrees aren't necessarily thriving, through the practical application of what it takes to be married. So we decided to
application. I love that.
Yes, practical application. Come on, teacher. So we decided to open this group up because previously our marriage group and retreats have been closed off to just people who went to our same church or were in through affiliations. But we opened it up this year and it's blossomed into something that was really cool. That being said, our husbands joined in and decided to, be by our sides, smoking bourbon, living their best lives, and share the husband's perspective on kind of Sweet Tea and Sunshine. So we allow. Can we say we allow?
Invited.
So sweet. We invited our husbands to be able to do Man Up Mondays. And Man Up Mondays is where I think I said before, but just in case the tracking got mixed up, it's them. It has nothing to do with me or with Sweet Tea and Sunshine. It is strictly what Val and Seth decide what's on their heart to share for that Monday for other husbands.
Yes, and oftentimes our encounters from the week may or may not be inspiration for what God has placed on their hearts to speak on the Man Up Monday, which I love because it's real-time stuff. It is things you can apply immediately, and they are doing it straight up from their hearts, like no influence from us. And like you were saying on the other...
Yes, so I was saying I realized that that's what it was, or that's what came to fruition when we just weren't in a good place on that Sunday. And I didn't remind him it was Man Up Monday at all because I was mad. And so up comes this post, And it really was speaking about where we were as far as our relationship, but it was his point of view.
Oh,
And so at that moment, I was like, I'm not going to respond to this. I'm going to take it as this is his attempt to make things better because maybe that's what that was. I don't know. It wasn't an apology, but it was really letting me hear
his
um,
side.
his side without me and my rebuttal.
Right.
And so that was cool because I was like, oh, that's what. This is what we
Oh.
doing. Oh, this is what we putting it in public. But he didn't. He didn't say Sharifa this, none of that. But I already knew that that's kind of what we were going through.
Yes.
And I actually got a text from someone who is in the group, but we're not close friends, and was like, man. And this is a man, a husband was like, man, that man on Monday hit right. I was like, I don't feel like it was that great. But
Yes.
that's when it let me know, like, okay, this is not really about us. It is us. We're using our experiences, but he is doing a really good job at applying that to sharing for other husbands. And I have to respect that. So I said,
And that's just cool though for a husband to feel comfortable to outwardly speak about situations with that they may or may not have been exactly 100% right about.
and well, and actually, that group, our group is called God Honors Marriage, but he prefaced that post saying, I don't have a verse for this. And I think
Yes,
that a lot of people identified with that post. Like, you don't always have to have a verse that's going to explain or whatever how you feel. Like, this is just how I feel. I'm just telling you, and let's think of a solution. And not by any means, the Bible does have answers to all the things, but
absolutely.
sometimes in our marriages, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to force the Bible into it. It's just kind of life. And
Right.
that was really cool for me to experience from the outside, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, I'm telling you. I think I love seeing your husband shine because I do. Although it made you cringe a little, I was cheering Val on from my side.
Whatever.
But now my husband, on the other hand, I don't. I'm not gonna say that I've been cheering, and that I think that he has done a great job, and I love that he took one of our experiences, which happened to be my obsession with a variety of salsas in the fridge. I just collect them. You never know, and all salsas taste differently. Okay,
So many different salsas.
me being the connoisseur that I am, I have to check with the salsa to see if that's really what my palate is
Yep.
liking at the moment. And I get a couple just in case the new one that I'm trying is not as good. Okay. So, yes, he decided he wanted to call me out about that. But the great thing is, he was able to acknowledge that he had an obsession with chicken rubs.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the in when we were going through it in the moment, we both laughed and we're like, "Oh my gosh, this needs to be a man up Monday." Like, because this happens all the time in marriage. He was trying so hard to, judge me and my salsa, but he also had a collection of barbecue rubs.
Thank
And
goodness. Because could you imagine your spouse being perfect and you're always the one messing up? You know what I mean? Like,
I used to feel that way early on in my marriage, though. I can't even lie.
you did?
I feel like not that I was perfect, but that it seemed like the way he always put a spin on the stories, it always seemed like he was right and I was wrong. Always, always, always. And that could have just been me being a brat and like, I'm always wrong. I don't know.
Right.
I did used to feel like that a lot early on in my marriage because when you can't ever admit, or when a spouse can't admit when they're wrong, or that they're not exactly performing at 100%
Yeah,
right.
it's like you just want to hit yourself in the head and say, stupid, stupid, stupid. I remember the time where, like, I literally could not get it right that he did not want mayonnaise on his burger. And I brought dinner home. I put air quotes. I brought dinner home, and it was like, yeah, you don't know, I don't like
Oh my God.
mayonnaise. And
Yes.
I literally broke down because I'm trying to be this wife. I'm trying to. The week before, I tried to make neck bones and rice, and he didn't want that. Like, it was just like I felt so much pressure, and I
Yes.
freaking couldn't even get the Burger King order right. Like, I felt like, oh. And so
Yes.
then it was one of those, stupid, beat myself up. Like,
Yes.
I felt like, yes, like you said, like you're always doing what's right, and I just can't get it
Right, we're
together.
missing it on the small things. Like, I don't want pickles on my number one at Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, oh, we can just take it off. No, the juice is in my bread now. And
Girl, that's me. I said, you can wipe the mayonnaise.
it's ruined. And I'm just like, oh, because he always gets my order right. Always gets my sauce. Like, and
Right.
I'm like you. I have absolutely done the same exact thing where I have beaten myself up. Like, I can't even do the small things. How am I ever going to be a good wife?
Right. And I think that, like, a bit of that is gaslighting. Like, you can't make me feel like you're doing everything right. It's impossible. No human is doing that. So, like, if you have a strong husband who is posturing, don't fall for it, because clearly they're feeling some sort of inadequacy in some area. Like, I've learned, okay, it may not be in the order taking, but your inadequacy might be somewhere else, and you just got to live a couple more years to figure out where that is. Not for bad, but for good. So,
So, one of the questions, what was the question?
the question was, oh gosh, why do we go? I had it pulled up, and girl, I got it.
Okay, I was like, you lost it. It's okay. We
I
got
sure
time.
did. With all these shenanigans happening in this world today, between Man Up Mondays throwing us off. No, it wasn't that Man Up Monday. That one was a nice one. Girl, the Mother's Day one was so sweet. I loved it.
It was good.
Okay, the question is, how well do you accept your spouse's flaws? And so it's kind of cool that.
Question even triggers me.
Well, it's kind of cool that we both shared those stories about early marriage, because clearly, we have been subjected to the accusation that we have flaws.
Right.
Early.
Early.
Now, is that the man's plan to jump up on us before we get a chance to get our bearings? Or is that...
feet on the ground?
Yeah. Like, hurry up and make them feel like they can't do nothing before they start feeling that black girl magic.
You are so crazy.
Or is it just their, like, opportunity? That's their warrior spirit to be like, let me jump up in here, because who knows what's gonna happen later? But let me make sure I establish my dominance as soon as possible.
I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to think through all of these scenarios that you have proposed. So I truly, I do think that his spirit was that we all have flaws. We all have shortcomings. I think that was spirit in which he began. But somehow, wait, we said this is not going to be a rebuttal. We want to answer the question.
Yeah, we couldn't make it a rebuttal because we had many conversations about it afterwards. But, me and Kisha kept it off the group page, okay? We did not try to muddle anyone's feelings or curb the feelings, but when we had an honest conversation with each other at some point, we were like, well, how do you feel about the Man Up Monday? And so we felt like, this was something we probably needed to talk out with our sisters and really just kind of dissect the feelings. Like the committee we talked about last week. Like we needed our committee, we needed our people, we needed two committees together.
Yes.
To figure out if this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kisha, did you feel attacked?
No, I don't think I felt attacked.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like we didn't bring it on home.
Yes.
Like, I felt like we were explaining the scenario, giving advice, but never did we ever.
Not advice with the air quotes, though.
Advice, but never did we ever circle on back around to the way that we accept our spouse's flaws is by acknowledging that we also have flaws.
Yeah, and so for me,
we gave the two examples, but never brought that back around.
So I think this would be a great opportunity before we break it down to read our Bible verse. And I know you know how to read it so emphatically.
I get it from my daddy.
And I love this verse. Like when I go to Holy Spirit Encounter and do my talk, it is around this. So like this is like the verse that I cling close to because I know when it's time to check myself before I wreck myself, I need to look at this.
Right. And it is about like, that is our response to the question, basically. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yourself.
Right? Like, no, don't check your spouse before you wreck
yourself.
That doesn't even rhyme. We don't even have any repetition here.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So the verse.
The scripture. Matthew 7, verses 3 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye?
Pause. So a speck of if you don't know what sawdust is, it's a little teeny piece of wood. The smallest piece. So small. Okay, keep going.
A splinter, child. Like a splinter, real little.
Teeny weeny.
Can't even see it almost. Okay. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank?
Hold up. What's a plank?
Listen, you heard the pirates. They said walk the plank. You know how big that is.
So it's a 4x4.
Yes, I'm like looking at it. Whenever I just see this big beam. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm over here straining trying to see this sawdust. And this beam is so very visible if I only look in the mirror.
Well, okay. Well, keep it going then, Matthew.
Like in your own eye. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay?
Owie.
How can you say to your brother, yo, bro, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye?
Ugh.
You hypocrite!
Hit him with it.
First, take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck So let's pause. Our big issue that day was my husband called me out so hard. He tried to scrape that little speck of sawdust out my eye.
Called salsa.
When he had a whole plank, a whole beam sticking out of his own eye. And yes, we chuckled and laughed so hard after I built his chicken rub pyramid on the countertop for it to be visible for all to see.
I love it.
And I took a photograph.
Well, okay, so that whole thing, like if you look at my finger, there's one finger pointing towards someone else, but then you have a thumb, you have a middle finger, second finger, pinky pointing back at you. So that literally is like the exemplary of how you over here talking about pointing at somebody else, but you have so many other fingers that you should be focusing on. All those fingers pointing towards yourself are really the ones that we would like everyone to focus on. Okay. And it brings me to, and we'll come back to the salsa and rub, but remember when we were talking about how we were trying to clean up our rooms, and then like immediately the thing you look for is not the items, not a pile of your underwear in the corner. I'm looking at these sweatpants piled up, and all of a sudden I'm like, I can't even walk into the bathroom because all these underwear of yours in the way, yet mine are still over there. And
I can be trying to clean my room up and it can be a sock, child. I'm like, this is why my room stays so dirty, because you be leaving your socks all over the place.
So we
clothes on the countertop, clothes on the dresser, hanging out the dresser,
makeup all over the bathroom. You know, it's just it literally, and that was the funny thing about me and you, is that we had brought that up a long time ago and laughed about it. Like, if only he would have these underwear out of my way, I could get this room clean. But it's just a funny joke because we realize, like, literally the majority is me. Like, I have so much crap that I need to get rid of.
And they do too.
That's not the point. That's not the point.
So I'm just trying to say, they do too. My point is, everybody got something to work on. Period. If we busied ourselves trying to focus on this plank that's so visible at your peripheral, girl, you can turn your head any kind of way, you can still see that darn plank popping out. And I think I love that illustration because it's like nowhere you can turn if you're truly paying attention to yourself and looking in the mirror. I remember an old country song, I mean not country, but like Southern song, I guess, sweep around your own front door before you sweep around mine.
How does it go?
I don't know. That's why I didn't sing it. Sorry.
Boo.
Let's do sweep on our game night.
You sing every other podcast.
Sweep around your own front door before you sweep around.
Sharifa, I'm so glad that you were able to figure it out because Kisha couldn't. So, that sounds great, Sharifa.
Thanks, girl. So, now that Sharifa's finished singing, girl, but it's serious. Like, we all have plenty of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we work that as hard as we work to try to correct our spouses,
we could have had our whole room clean while we over here worrying about this little sock.
Girl, I mean, it is so, like, I'll get it and I'll throw it out in the hallway. Or I'll throw Ainsley and Brooklyn stuff out in the hallway. I'm like, y'all keep your stuff out of my room. Like,
lo and behold, there's a whole wardrobe sitting over there in the corner.
It's like once I get all that, I'm like, oh, now I can focus. I'm tired. Time to lay down.
I feel like, okay, so in this quarantine, it really has tugged on my guilt strings because I've been on those kids so hard that I'm like, dog, when they come in my room, what the heck do they see? Like,
girl, my folks on the. Oh, sorry. I'm so distracted.
What?
People are still liking your live. I'm sorry.
What live? Oh my gosh.
Your old live. So anyway, so you have been convicted. I too have been convicted with my children.
Totally convicted. I'm like, clean your room. All this crazy talk. And then I walk into my room and I'm like, oh, who did this to me?
I love that you brought up our kids because it is rough. It is rough because I have found myself pushing, coaching. Meanwhile, all that coaching, I haven't had time to do my own room because I've been trying so hard to raise them right.
Right. If only they would do what they needed to do and allow me to do what I need to do, we would all be great. But no. I have to keep on pushing.
And by the time I finally get you to the point, I wanted to be doing it too. I wanted to, while I'm fussing at you to get yours done, I wanted to be working on mine as well. Now you have tired me out. You're sitting up here with the clean room now, and mine still is suffering.
And we literally, our kids' rooms in this quarantine have been upgraded. I'm like, oh my gosh, like these lights in your boy's room. Yes. He's got a whole dresser I put together with the Turner what's it called?
Real?
All that. I did it all myself. And then this girl, I'm ordering all kinds of little bedspreads and we painting and refinishing her furniture. And I look at my own room, I'm like, I still got a cardboard box as a nightstand. And I'm so confused as to why y'all are living the life like you're in Coachella, Missy, living in a tent in Coachella. And I'm over here, living at High Falls State Park. I'm confused. I'm so confused. So besides the kids, because the kids can be a whole nother, and we talk about them all the time.
Yes.
What about the Man Up Monday made us feel some kind of way? Like, was it just that there was not enough focus on self? Using Matthew as the example? Or was it ego saying, why are you calling me out about my stuff?
Oh, I don't even care about the call out. I don't. I think my thing is, like, I love the call out. I love the authenticity. I love the real time live coming up live straight up to y'all. Everybody likes some reality, honey. So I love the reality of it. So that didn't bother me because I always feel like our stories and our experiences can definitely give somebody else strength. So I'm cool with it.
For sure.
I think you nailed it. when you said that part about not circling back to Matthew. Like, or if that's the spirit of the whole thing, because you are reflecting on what you can do better. I feel like if every one of them is a reflection of, if we go back to Matthew and we circle it on back to how the person that's speaking or how the person that's speaking who he's representing can get better.
Right. And so I feel like, and I love my brother. We are kin and we are twin. But
Yes, honey.
I also felt like I feel like saying like he brought up the whole you're late.
Oh my gosh. And that was so old. Like we hadn't had those issues in so long. So that was not live,
And
honey.
that's fine, but I also felt like the antidote to that was not really
Reflective.
grounded in what we like by saying, okay, so what I do, husbands, is I tell her it's the date is at 6 and when it really is at 7. Like I really don't know if that would speak to me. And I'm just talking from a receiving end. I'm not talking about from.
Yeah.
So if my husband was like, trick me and tell me what time everything was due, would that really stop me from being late? Or is that just like a quick fix, a little band aid on it? Because the issue really is that I'm running late. So by you just manipulating the time and changing it to something different, that's cool and all. We get there on time, but it really doesn't address the issue of why are you so late?
Right.
So if you're saying, baby, what, like, I think Tiny and them family hustle they talked a little bit about that too with Toya, where it's like, what the issue is, why are you running late? Not that we're late and let me go ahead and fix it. Because that's just a band-aid. It's not going to change anything. Like, if is it because I have to fix the dinner, I have to arrange the babysitter? Is it because I got to make sure my daughters are in line? Like, what can you take off the load to make sure that your wife has that time to go ahead and get ready?
Which is that sleep around, that look at me. Like if I'm just sitting on the couch looking like a brand new shiny copper penny, ready to go, and meanwhile, where the girls? Oh, they ain't down here yet. Oh, let me go. So yes, and we have actually when it was an issue, I had to tell him, I'm like, listen, you were worried about you, and sometimes men are like that. Sometimes.
Yeah, and before we are in the situation we're in, I love having Nene and all that, but I also feel like I wanted to tell him it is your job to find a sitter. It is your job to make sure our kids are where they need to be. If you're setting up a date, please don't put that on me to work out the details. I don't want it. And so when there's all those details, that's when I'm late. So if you can hop in and figure out all of that while you got all this free time on your hands waiting on me, then that would be amazing. Because for me, a lot of it was just the mental way down of, okay, oh my God, it's going to be a lot. These kids are going to be crying. They're going to be hugging each other. My kids used to be hugging each other, holding on to a picture. Like, that is just guilt. And so, like, how much of that can you alleviate to make it easy for me to be able to transition into me being fly so we can go out in town? Like, it's just kind of, I'm not accusatory, but I'm also saying, like, it's not about setting the time earlier so that we're ready earlier. It's really more about meeting the needs that are obvious to the wife.
Right. Let's just get this. Let's have a conversation the day before or earlier when we first wake up. All right, what do we need to do? Hell, what can I do? Like again, reflecting on yourself. Like, oh man, okay, I don't get up and get started immediately. I lollygag a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I sit and scroll for a second or something or whatever. Where if I just don't even pick up my phone, I could just get up and get going. I don't know. That's not truly one of my vices, but I just use that as an example because what I wanted to say was, okay, if I know that it takes her a little longer for her to get ready, then I need to probably be responsible for rounding up the girls. I need to rustle them up. Not to mention, they respond more quickly to you. So
and how much happier would the wife be if they know those kids are all round up? Because that's a lot of the stress. Like I know, empty nesters, luckily you don't have to deal with that, but you probably could relate. But at the same time,
Right.
there's a lot of hustle and bustle, even with tweens and teens. Like, I gotta bust through you
Motivating.
because you over here trying to order Domino's. Like, it's just a lot of things that need to happen to make it move smoothly. And I feel like the husbands agree with that. Like, I feel like if they understood, like, if the way my mind thinks, if there was an itemized list of all the things that had to happen before we could go on a date, it would be more clear about what needed to be checked off and then free me up to be free to be ready on time.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. And they do work well. Did you see that post that one of our friends posted? And it was like these little cartoon characters of the husband, and it was just a lot of kind of what we're talking about. Girlfriend was coming over to dinner, and the wife was like trying to greet. Well, the husband answered the door. The wife was trying to greet her from the kitchen and feeding the baby. And
yes, I saw that. That one was painful to read, and I kept reading it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, you could feel the tension.
So much tension built up because I could relate.
At some point, we've all been there.
I could relate with being the mom or the visitor. And it's like, what, do I help? Like, what the heck? Like, he's not even worried. Like, it's just very, I just got all worked up thinking about it because I've seen women in Food Depot parking lot and I felt like I needed to grab a couple of babies and help get those groceries in. Like, I just felt like this is too much. I feel it. I understand. It's just a lot going on from just a not husband point of view. So, like, I don't understand how a husband who lives in the house could feel like everything's all good, just ask me for help when some stranger in the dang on grocery store parking lot sees you got 2 newborns and a 3-year-old, and it's just not going to happen with getting these groceries in the car. Like, how is it going to happen?
That was it, though. I forgot that was the main point about that mental fatigue that women, because we're always thinking of the next thing or thinking about, what's going to happen with the kids, what's going to happen with dinner, what's going to happen with this, what's going to happen with that. And, like, that's what it really helped me understand. Again, my husband said from the very beginning, say what you mean what you say. If you need something, you need to say it. I'm not a mind reader. Like, and I get that, but, like, sometimes I think wives don't know what they need. Sometimes we can do an itemized list, like you said, but, like, sometimes
you just be in it.
It's like we're just in there handling it. So what I need is for you to step in and relieve me without me having to say SOS, Mayday, Mayday, I'm a sinking ship right now.
Right, which is like, and I love to bring it back to education because when I've worked with co-teachers, there's been opportunities for them, like there's been opportunities for us to be upfront about it ahead of time and be like, look, this is what it is. And then sometimes there's really good co-teachers who just jump in and see the need. And and there's really bad ones who don't see the need, and you see this whole ship is on a blaze, and you over here chilling. Why haven't you paid attention to what's expected? So it's very similar. Now that you mentioned it, those teachers who I've been worked really well with had a keen sense of what needed to get done. So it was like the whole mission, like we talked about the 2020 vision of the family. And so that person was able to understand, like, my role is just as important as this role that I'm watching. Like, let me take some ownership of what my role is. And I am grateful that my husband is very, very, very good at doing that. He is. Like, he is very good at, he's better than me. Because
Yeah.
sometimes he'll be fed up, and I'm like, what you talking about? I've been at work. Like, he's very good at making sure that ship is run. And
Right.
that's why I was really happy about the post for Mother's Day, because it was Man Up Monday for Mother's Day, or was that Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about, feeling the need and doing what you think is necessary. Make sure you step up in that area, not only on Mother's Day, but every other day. Like, you don't have to not do dishes. You don't have to not cook and save it up for a special occasion,
Yeah.
which was super cool.
Yeah. I do appreciate how Seth will run interference with the kids, because it's so funny. Like, he literally, you know how we are as educators, and I'm like, I don't know. We both go in and out of this role, though. Like, sometimes I'm entertainment mom and feeling the necessity to try to make sure our kids are hype and up. And then sometimes I fall off, and then you turn into entertainment mom, making sure that they are. But I told him, I said, that's one of the blessings of being married to an educator. We never got to do that episode, but I was like, that we just come up with things, and we see a need in kids, and if they need to be stimulated, we know how to whip something up for them to have fun or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, but you start getting tired, and I was like, I do. And like, we were talking about this the other day, he was like, so he'll be like whispering and coaching me up off to the side. He's like, let them go on and do their own thing. Don't interfere. They can go upstairs and play with each other without you. You don't have to insert yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but I want to. And he was like, all right. He was like, you're going to be, later on, you're going to be looking like Rescue Me. But I'm trying to coach you up on not doing that right now. Like, so he's just like, I don't want you to get overwhelmed or super tired or,
right.
whatever. So it is that anticipating and watching and seeing when they do, because my kids.
I just think it's about the word of like being present, like present, and if you're in tune and in touch with what's going on, you're not gonna miss that moment. Like,
that's so true.
I can confirm that every night, me and him look at each other and be like, it's time. Like, I'm looking at my watch, like, it's time for bed. Because we both have been in it the entire day. And so, like, if one of y'all is not looking at the watch and just cool, that means you probably haven't been in it the entire day. Like, there's a certain knowing, like, okay, now it's time for our time. We're about to break. What are we going to do? But if that person is still chilling and being cool after a long day of kids, wife, food, like all that stuff, then that's kind of like a red flag. But what I do want to say to you, Kisha, is like, I'm so grateful that we have this platform to talk through this stuff. And I don't want to get it twisted with like real, third world problems or whatever. Like, all this stuff is definitely like fine tuning of a good man and a good marriage. It's right. Not like my husband is doing the work, because, like, trust me, I know of situations where it could be much, much worse. Right. And one time I had a friend who approached me and was like, well, I don't ever want to hear anything about a married woman talking about her husband because I ain't got no husband. So, like, this really is for wives who are trying to better their marriage and not for a single woman who's trying to catch a man. Because it's a totally different vibe. Like, it's a totally different level. Not level like this, but different level as far as development.
Right.
This is definitely an advanced conversation when it comes to marriage, I would say. Because the basics are communication and his needs, her needs, but when it comes to a little bit more, like, we trying to like get that little teeny fine tune to make it like Yeah, that sweet spot. We're trying to get it to that
Yes,
place.
yes, yes, yes.
And so, like, by no means am I saying my marriage sucks. No, it doesn't. My marriage is amazing. I love my
Right.
husband. He's a great person. He's contributing to God honors marriage. Who could want
Right.
more than that?
Right. Without us nag, like we have, neither of us have had to say one time, it's Man Up Monday.
Mm-mm.
Like they are just on it, almost trying to put us to shame.
Girl, look, I'll tell our audience one Monday night I was like, it's Man Up Monday, and it was like 10 o'clock. Girl, if that post didn't come up so quick,
I'm telling
that
you.
was one time since we got started with this though. So
And
he's
not to
been.
mention, everybody knows all these distractions we have in our homes right now.
I know. I didn't even blame. I wasn't even tripping, and we
It's
weren't
like,
even fighting at that point. The other thing is disagreements are going to happen. And I feel
yeah,
like some marriages feel like, my, if you're always arguing, then what you married for? If you're never arguing, I'm worried. Like, I just feel like the
because
lo- go
you're
ahead.
no, I was gonna say because you're living, breathing human beings. So how can you not? Nobody's gonna agree on every single thing all the time, and then maybe that could be a sign that you're not even really truly giving your true opinion or really truly talking it out.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, what are you withholding if there is never any argument? Like, are you suppressing things? Are you not sharing? You just going along to make it easy? Like, there's a
Right,
lot of different. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not going to diagnose nothing, but I feel
right.
like having disagreements are super healthy, especially when you have friends like you, Keisha, who I could be like, girl, this is not a good day. And he tried to tell me that I'm an asshole. Or, whatever it is, I think it's important to surround yourselves with people who have a honest relationship of what marriage, an honest envision of what marriage really is, and like what the expectations of a wife and a husband are. And a realistic expectation, not a whole fairy tale, all that stuff, but just like if you are bragging to your friends saying we never argue, I'm not gonna think of that as a good thing. Just like in the classroom when a teacher would be like, my kids are silent, you could hear a pin drop. I'm I'm having a problem with that. Like I feel like what are you doing that are muting these kids? Like it's just kind of one of those situations where we gotta be human.
That's right. And I hadn't seen the perfect one yet.
And we have to be able to pull on each other because if you got it all figured out, then you don't need to even be in here. You got it all figured out. You need to start your own.
Oh my.
Right? Like, I need to be following your podcast so I can figure out my stuff because I'm not
That
there.
doesn't help people. It doesn't help people. And I don't want to say a person is self righteous, but like, you know, uh, it's not helpful. Who are you helping by saying that you've not been through anything or that you don't go through anything? And I'm not saying make up stuff, but like, even our stuff with the salsa was small, and we laughed about it so hard once it all came full circle. But like at first, it was just like not to say we were just screaming and yelling at each other, but I was just like, "Why are you calling me out about this salsa?"
But that
You
whole iron sharpens iron. Like,
yeah,
also, I would want my husband to say something if he felt like, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, not to a
and
critical
it was
point.
a lot of salsa.
Right. Like you can go back to it and be like, okay, next time I go salsa shopping, I
I'll throw
won't.
away the old ones that I didn't use. Like, and I told him, I said, "You're right. Like, I literally should before I go to the grocery store. Number one, look. in the fridge. Number two, throw away the ones that I didn't like instead of just having collector's items.
And he too should look at the rubs that he has and decide which ones he doesn't like. If we're talking about planks in the eye, look at your own. This is not, ladies, this is not a suggestion for you to be like, worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. Like, it's not that. It's not that, ladies. So let's not treat our husbands that way. It's in love.
And we are saying, ladies, be self-reflective on yourself.
Yes.
Like, not, again, if you go back to that worry about yourself thing, here you are over here talking about this speck again. Yes. Just go to the mirror and say that. Worry about yourself.
The bigger plank. Like, it, and honestly, like, you can't, somebody told me a long time ago, you can't control anybody but yourself. You cannot control your spouse. You can't.
Very easy.
It's impossible because they have their own whatever. If you're controlling your spouse, that's abuse. So you control yourself because that is what you can control. You can't even control your kids when it comes down to it. Like, it literally, everybody has their own will. Everyone, God bless everyone with their own special abilities. And thank God we can control ourselves.
Right. And at the end of the day, if you are trying to do what's right, God honors marriage, period. Like, if you're truly trying to reflect and get the plank out and communicate and share and go through tough conversations and then come back out of it, a better person, God is going to honor that. And that is what the goal should be.
Period. Amen. Period. So, what do we have like that? I think we're good. We're good to end with that. I think that we kind of drove the point home. If you're interested, go ahead and join our God Honors Marriage group on Facebook. We are doing a lot of things on there. You don't want to miss out. Add your spouse. Also, I don't know if there's much more. We're still in COVID, so there's a lot of things.
We don't have any spots left for September's marriage retreat.
No, we're done with our marriage retreat. We're going to open for the next year, 2021. So,
yes, we are currently full, and it's still on.
Mm-hmm.
We do have game nights, couples game nights on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock. And we are starting a new thing tomorrow with going live with this very question, as a matter of fact. We want you to have an opportunity to chime in live so we can see what you think about this,
Right. So we're going to do Wednesday night question. One question. All of us are going to be in there. We can have our discussion. You can add your questions or your answers or whatever. And that'll be awesome for everybody. I just got a random message. Anyways, so we will be on Wednesday nights until we decide, or when we decide we won't. But I am looking forward to going live on Wednesday.
Yes. We hope to see you there. If you're not there already, please go.
Yes. All right.
Marriage group. Just in case you needed a reminder.
Yeah, God Honors Marriage group on Facebook. That's what it is. And we're also God Honors Marriage on Instagram. Facebook is kind of where it's at, where the interaction happens. But Instagram, go ahead and join that if you're that type. We are available there. All right. Bye.